Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Neerja, and today I'm going to talk to you about journaling, if you couldn't already tell. So today I'll start off talking about why it's important and how you can get into it. And then we'll talk about some things to be mindful of and some things you should consider before you start. And then finally, we will discuss some journaling techniques and prompts to get you started. And obviously, I will share some examples from my past journals, my present journal, so you're a little bit more motivated and you can see what it could look like for you. Now, before I start, a little disclaimer. Everything I talk about is with respect to me. The journaling system that I've created for myself works for me because it's personalized to me, so it might not work for you. That said, a lot of the things I talk about are fairly general and you can adapt them to work for you. I would still tell you to listen and watch the whole video, and then if you relate to certain things, take those things and try them. If they don't work, well, oh well, but try them. Okay, so let's first talk about why you should journal. Now, why do I journal? I journal to ground myself, to get away from all my thoughts, to get them out of my brain, and just make it much less chaotic. I'm someone who overthinks a lot, and if we're friends, you know that. Honestly, overthinking is just overanalyzing everything. I would describe my brain to be like a tangled ball of yarn. The journaling untangles this ball of yarn. I can't really do things unless I untangle my thoughts, write them down, and that way I can be a little more focused and be able to organize my thoughts better. Now let's talk about how you could get into journaling. Now, a really good place to start is to journal about journaling. You know, on your first page, you should literally just journal about journaling. The first thing you should write down is why you haven't been able to get into it. If this is something that you've been thinking about, why haven't you been able to sustain this habit? Now, it could be that you don't have enough time. You don't know when to do it, and it's just you don't have the time, or you don't know how to start and you don't know what to write about. It could be anything. A way to help you do this is a decisional balance table. This is something I like to do for any habits that I want to start or any habits that I want to stop. Basically, any change that you want to make in your life, you can use a decisional balance table. And the way it looks like, so I've put my own little decisional balance table for journaling right here. But the way it looks like is you have the pros and cons on the top. It's a 2x2 grid. On the top, you have your pros and cons, and on the side, making a change. And then on the other part, you'll have not making a change. So you're basically going to have 4 boxes. The first one, you write pros of making a change, cons of making a change, pros of not making a change, and cons of not making a change. This will hopefully help you realize why you need to do what you need to do. It will help you assess and realize how important the said change is. And you can do this for journaling. Now, the next thing you want to write down is your goal. What is it that you want to gain from journaling? Everyone has a different goal. It could be to get organized. You could start a bullet journal. It could be to keep a record of your life, something to look back to in the future. Or it could be to channel your more creative side. It could be an art journal. It could be anything. It's important to recognize what it really is that you want from your journal and write it down. Now, mine is to be grounded, as I said earlier, to get my thoughts out and just dump them, really. Simply put, it's just to make my brain shut up. That is why I do journaling, which is why I can use my journal as a brain dump. I use my journal for absolutely everything. Next thing you will do is you'll set a time for it. You will set it into your timetable, and at that time you sit down and you journal. Wherever you are, you pull out your journal and you write. Next thing you're gonna do is you need to set your priorities straight. What expectations and limits you need to set for yourself so that the goals that you set earlier for journaling are met. For example, before I started this journal right here that I'm reading off of, I apologize, I have a very bad memory, but before I started my current journal, I promised myself I wouldn't set too high expectations. I tend to focus on beautifying things. I used to have a bullet journal. I used to want to do like pretty titles and make everything look perfect. So what I would do is either I'd cover it up or I'd rip the page out. My last journal is falling apart completely because I've ripped so many pages out that the stitching is just so messed up. Don't do that. Set realistic expectations for yourself. Another thing I would do is that I would leave pages, just blank pages, and I'd be like, oh, I want to put photos here. I'll come back to it later. I never came back later. Now, you might be someone who does. So if that's you, good for you. You do you. But that's not me. I can't do that. So a promise I made to myself is that I wouldn't focus on making things pretty. I told myself that it was okay to make a mess, and that if I did need to channel my creative side, I would just do a creative page. But it doesn't mean that when I'm journaling, that itself has to be pretty. And another thing is, if you don't do this, you're already starting losing. Whenever you start something, you do not want to start losing, because honestly, you're only going to want to do something if you're winning, if you feel good about doing it. But if you're constantly setting high expectations for yourself and then failing to meet them, you're not going to feel good. So make expectations that you can meet. At the end of the day, remember that you know you better than anyone else. So follow what you think is right for yourself. Just assess it properly. Now next, the materials which you use are very important, especially to someone who's a stationery freak like me. It's really important to me. And even if you're not, I still think it's really important to set out a journal or a book and a pen that are special to you, or at least comfortable to you, and are distinct and just for journaling. This makes journaling a little more special and helps you follow through better when you have something more distinct that's just set for journaling. So this journal here, I know I said I'm a stationery freak, but this is a fairly simple journal. I got it in less than a week ago. Simple, black, about $10 from Michael's, and I've accessorized it with this little Dreaming of the Bog sticker. It's simple. I will decorate more, but I don't want to just decorate for the purpose of decorating. And currently I'm using a pen that's really comfortable. This is a ink pen. It's not a ball pen. I do not like ball pens. You want to start off with something that you already like, so that the activity that you're doing you will also like. I know it doesn't completely correlate, but it does help. Now, let's talk about what you journal about. What is it that you write when you actually sit down and you start? Now, going back to my expectations bit, I told myself that my journal doesn't have to look a specific way, which means I can dump in it. As I told you earlier, I use my journal as a brain dump. So I can do whatever I want with it as long as I do something. So I can plan. I plan a lot of my videos in this thing. Well, I've started to. And I can use it as a timetable. I can write my to-do lists. I can write my packing lists. I can write down things that I'm interested in that I want to research. I can write down the information I learned from my research. The biggest thing I like to do is use it for brainstorming, just dumping it there. I feel like when you're trying to really dump your brain, at least for me, doing it online doesn't work because it's not everything is there on one page. There's a little scrolling involved, whereas when it's in front of you, it's so much easier and you can see it better, at least for me. So yeah, you could use it as really anything. Now, for more structure, and this is something that I have started to do, but not something I've completely been staying in habit for now. I've been journaling on and off for years now, at least 7 years. But it's never been a constant habit for me, and I'm really trying to make it this year. And so I made myself a structured worksheet type of situation. That way I know what I want to write, and I write daily. And when you have a worksheet, you know what to do, right? You don't really have to think of prompts or look for a prompt that's like interesting for you. It's just something you fill out. It's so much easier that way. So this is the worksheet structure that I have. Obviously start off with the date, right? And the following is what I like to do in the morning. So firstly, I'll write down all the tasks I want to do today. I feel like it's harder to focus and analyze your life when you feel like there's so much to do. So write down what you have to do. Then write down what you're looking forward to, or if there's events that are happening, like if you're going to see a friend, if you're going out for dinner with someone, write it down. Something that you're looking forward to. Then what are you worried about and why? Right? You want to write down your fears of the day and why is that thing scary? Why are you worried? Write it down. Next thing you want to write is a pep talk. Now this is basically an affirmation. It can be as short as you like, as long as you like. It's something that you have to write for yourself. Do not take random affirmations off the internet. I feel like they don't have that big of an impact because they're not personalized. They're not the exact words you need to hear. Only you know what you need to hear. So write that down, however long it is, and make yourself feel good, right? Now, another reason why I don't like affirmations on the internet is that sometimes they're extremely positive. You don't need to be the most positive person out there. The affirmations need to be realistic so that they work for you. You can't jump from a low point to a very high point. You have to take smaller steps. Now, after you've done that, hopefully that'll naturally start you journaling and will help you just dump. So you can just do a little dump of whatever's going on in your head after that. Now, the rest of this is what you do towards the end of the day. Ideally, right before you're about to sleep, especially if you're someone who can't turn their brain off and can't sleep easily. This might help. So firstly, write a highlight of the day. Then something you're grateful for, or someone you're grateful for if you've had a meaningful interaction, write about that. Something you've learned in the day. Then a problem or problems that came your way and how you tackled them. Sometimes they're more like long-term or later problems, but you'll still have done something that helped you feel better. So write about that. And then write down something you were proud of for doing today. It can be super simple. You are proud of eating 3 meals a day. Just write it down. Write down something you're proud of so you end the day off with a win, or at least remembering a win. Then again, hopefully that will help you lead and start a dump. And then finally finish with some tasks that you have to do tomorrow so they don't linger on in your brain, and something you look forward to for tomorrow. And that's the little structured format that you can follow when you don't know what to write about, or something you can just do on a daily basis. Now, some other more effective methods to analyze your life. Now, I'm someone who overthinks, as I said earlier. Sometimes I'm really anxious. So these are 2 things I like to think about and write down when I'm overthinking about something or there's an issue in my life. And it's called an ABCDE table. So honestly, I believe overthinking, it starts when you overanalyze everything. And so the best way for me has been to tackle it is to overanalyze the overthinking. And so we do that with some shadow work. So the ABCDE table, the A stands for an activating situation. So you write down what it is that's making you feel a certain way. It could be, an assignment that you have to do, or going out with your friends, or anything. Then B are your beliefs and your thoughts. Your beliefs related to that activity. What does that make you feel? Then C, it's the consequences. This is the emotional or physical impact it's having on you. Then we have D, which is dispute. This is when you dispute those thoughts and think about if they're rational or not. And finally, E, which is a effective new belief. So you're basically resetting your thoughts to something that makes more sense, that's something that's more rational. And the next thing I like to look at are cognitive distortions. So some examples of this. First of all, what are cognitive distortions? So they are irrational thoughts that shape how you feel, how you act, right? So some of the examples of this might be all or nothing thinking. So you might see things in black and white categories, or overgeneralization, that something negative might happen in your life and then you apply that to everything. Everything's gonna be negative. Jumping to conclusions. So you make a negative interpretation even though there are no definite facts, convincingly supporting your conclusions. Or magnification, right? Something bad does happen in your life, but you blow it out of proportion. Things like that. So I will link a little website or article that talks about some of these that you can look at. Something else I like to do, I talked about earlier, I don't want to beautify everything, but when I am feeling creative, I will do creative pages. This might be just sketching things I'm seeing that are in front of me when I'm out. What I've done in the past is I've taken pictures of my walks and then came home and drawn out those images. Or I'll be at a park and I'll draw the ducks and the geese, things like that. Or if I'm out with a friend, I'll draw my friend. Now, sometimes all you need to do is just start. I'm sure this is something you've heard before, but I'm gonna say it once more. Just start. A nice way to start is to describe your sensation or describe the moment. Describe yourself sitting down, having a pen in your hand, and writing the first words. Your first words could simply be, hello, I just sat down at my desk, on my chair. My towel is drying on my chair. It is night time. I have my pen in hand. It has a little scratch on it, things like that, and eventually you'll just start writing. One thought will lead to the next, so just start writing. You can also use prompts. So I don't have a list of prompts for myself. I've been using a list of prompts are put together by Ali Abdal. It's a Notion template that I've been using, and I will link it in my description. Please do check it out. They are so helpful. There's so many of them for different things. And if you haven't already checked out his channel, please do. I love his content. It is super helpful for self-growth. I definitely think you should check it out. If I manage to figure out how to put it here, it will be here. If not, it will be in the description. So now, as we approach the end of the video, the best advice I can give you, as I said earlier, which I'm sure you've heard, is just to start. Just start. Sit down. If you really can't think of anything, if there's no prompt that you find interesting, describe the moment, as I said, right? You just start writing. And creativity, like motivation, I like to think of it as a heavy metal ball. There's static friction, right? It is hard to push the ball. But once you do start pushing it, once it does start rolling, it is so much easier to roll. You don't have to apply the same amount of pressure. There's less force. The same thing with motivation and creativity. Just start rolling the ball. Just push. And eventually it'll become easier. So just start. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something, because I definitely did. So I hope you learned something. For more similar content, please do follow me, and I'll see you in the next video. So until next time, goodbye, and remember to practice journaling, okay? Bye-bye.
Grown up, I did the dishes, cleaned my room, and played with toy soldiers and Hot Wheels cars.